All right. I'm Paul Seelbach, again, professor of practice and aquatic ecologist. My idea, Dick, for making the 5 minutes is to use notes. So I'm going to talk from notes. That's my only prayer.
And make the rest of us look bad.
Well, it's not going to work, brother. No stories. So I'm really interested in the long kind of ribbon landscape that is the Great Lakes coast. Dick talked a little bit about coasts. It's ecologically and societally complex and rich and shapes the region. This is a diagram of straightening the coasts and showing the Pacific and the Great Lakes and the Atlantic and Gulf coasts from Canada and the United States. And some people like to say, oh, it's the longest coast, but it's actually, my point is it's pretty significant. It's a substantial feature. This coast provides invaluable services to society, both at the coast and then beyond, sort of radiating from coastal communities. And those services generate use, and those uses generate stressors. Those three terms are tied together. And many of you will recognize this kind of stressors map that Dr. Allen, David Allen, produced here a few years ago, but it's a coastal stressors kind of reflection. We're looking forward to we're watching the rebound of this region from the Rust Belt era of the last several decades. And folks who study urbanization and urban patterns point out that we are already the fastest growing urban megalopolis in the continent. And soon we will be, at some point, it's envisioned, we will be the primary urban megalopolis on the continent built around those freshwater resources, historically and currently. And I forgot to say, this image is from a really wonderful new publication, the Third Coast Atlas, that highlights Great Lakes and the Great Lakes region. And this is another an article from in there, and faculty member, or Drs. Velikov and Thune are also faculty members in the Taubman School here at the University of Michigan. And they've done a lot of mapping of what they call sheds, so kind of footprint sheds. So this is the cargo transportation shed. It's sort of illustrating the density of human footprint that's grown up around these lakes and continues. So to me, the key question that I'm most interested in is, how can we sustain coastal freshwater systems and their associated services in the face of this expanding urbanization? My scientific interest, I'm a little bit related to Catherine Rising, I think, for a couple of reasons. I bring a landscape ecology approach to aquatic ecosystems, and I wanted to define that a little bit. So what the heck does that mean, land and water? But landscape ecology urges us to think about, take a systems approach, think about heterogeneity and connectivity and spatial and temporal scales and processes that operate across scales, and remembering that humans are in the system and, sort of one of the system characteristics. My practice purpose in being here at school is to bring engagement with practitioners, both in the research and the teaching arenas. So I work in both nearshore ecosystems. I'm historically an aquatic ecologist, and in sort of the translation of those systems, sort of how do we value and how we value or don't value necessarily societally the services that turn into sort of decision making in coastal communities that would hopefully turn into sustainability. I bring hopefully some work with me from my past work at USGS at structure and function of the mixing zones in the lakes. I'm working with Karen and Catherine to start up some master's projects that we think will go on for years in this massive sort of coastal and floodplain estuary that's just north of here. It's called the Shiawassee Wetlands. 4 rivers come together and are also affected by Lake Huron. I'm working with Valerie Ivanoff and Branko Kirkev up in engineering on beginning a sort of smart sensor continuous real-time information system looking at storm flow and the sewage pathogen responses to the pulsing of those storm flows sort of within the system. On the human dimension side, I've been working with Julia Wondolek, advising a series of master's efforts here, looking at the dynamics between state and local players in the cleanup of Michigan's areas of concern. So back to areas of concern. And I'm advising the master's team looking at sort of a new buzz term called blue communities, which has to do with fostering the values of stewardship in practice, in community leadership. And on both of these efforts, I've been working with Dick Norton over the last couple of years. So as professor of practice, I'm really striving to connect the dots, both across seas and across campus, and then with a range of coastal practitioners. And this is just sort of a smattering of who is working with us on the previous slide. But there are federal agencies, there are state agencies, there are counties and local government, local public groups, NGOs, and some private folks as well. So, but I wanted to share that my role here at the university is really meant to have influence beyond my own sort of personal sphere. So please let me know if I can be of help to you in terms of connecting to aquatic resource practitioners in the Great Lakes. In terms of thinking about a theme, I mentioned some of these at the beginning. I'll just sort of pop through them again. What might a theme provide? I can envision it, again, helping us bring together curriculum, fostering networking, mobilizing this multidisciplinary power that we need to have to address ecosystem problems at the appropriate scales. Strategy and energy put towards research, more powerful maybe research granting. And then the assurance of regular and prominent campus events, sort of supporting the many topics we're talking about here today, and reminding us that we have an annual event called Water at Michigan that could be sort of a focal point of the theme. And finally, teaching. I teach 3 courses in which try to build various levels of engagement and case-based learning in river and Great Lakes ecosystems, and then of course on public engagement with the AOCs. And the AOC's world likes to talk about the 3 R's, so it's remediation, restoration, and revitalization, sort of in sequence in those. And then my kind of dream of courses or a course, my dream is that we could better integrate these courses. I feel like we need to sort of marry ecology and decision making to have a better effect. And this is, we used to have these conversations. Actually, my colleague Jeff Schaefer is here in the room. We had lots of conversations up at USGS about, and then Jeff worked with a former student here, I think Max Cohen, and who Max created this cartoon. But that planners kind of see the world. There's a lot of structure and function up in the urban area, and then the water's just blue. It's this blue blob with a kayak. Okay, and then the ecologists see all the structure and function in the water, and maybe I would change the cartoon a little bit, and then they just see gray. It's like a gray, shoreline or something. And so the dream there is to sort of bring together more integrated ecology with sort of practice planning decision making. Okay, thanks.